Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of 10-Minute Topic with Pureline Tutoring. Let's get right into it. So today we're going all the way back to Form 1, looking at the characteristics of living organisms. And I have one objective that I want us to go through today. So today we'll be describing the characteristics of living things. Now, where did I get this information from? It is the very first objective under topic 1.4, characteristics of living things, in the Form 1 section of the curriculum. And if you would like to have a copy of this curriculum to use as your study guide, or for you to get a glimpse of what you will see or what you are required to know and to learn from Form 1 straight to the end of Form 3, I will place this link in the description box below. So let's move forward. Now, for something to be considered a living thing, because we know we have living and non-living things. So for something to be classified as a living thing, it must possess these 7 characteristics. It cannot have 1 or 2 or 6 and say, okay, well, the 7th one, I already have 6 of it. It has to have all 7 characteristics. And an easy way to remember the 7 characteristics is by this acronym here, which is Grimner. Now, according to what information or where you get your information, sometimes you may see it represented as Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren and Grimner is the same thing, just a rearrangement of the letters. And what you need to know is that all of these letters represent something. Now, one of the things you'll notice, Mrs. Gren, Grimner. There's no S in Grimner, and there's no I in Mrs. Gren. This I and this S is the same thing, but there are 2 words that could be used interchangeably. So when we get to that, I'll show you what the S word is, since we're using Grimner as our acronym. So let's jump right into it. The first one that we want to cover is G, which stands for growth. What exactly is growth? Growth is the ability of an organism to increase in its size as well as its complexity. So from complexity, we get the word complex. If something is complex, what we could think of it as is something simply just has many layers to unfold to what actually makes it up. So when something is growing, when an organism, a living organism is growing, it is increasing in size and getting more complex. And what causes this? It's an increase in the number of cells. All living organisms are made up of cells. Some just made up of 1 cell, while others, for example, humans, we have millions of cells. So for example, we're seeing here this bird. So birds, they are laid as eggs, and then these eggs develop over time. They hatch. We have these little baby birds here, and then eventually, over time, they get to their final form. We're seeing that they have grown. Look at this. Their features has changed. They have increased in their size, their weight, all of these different things are part of that process of growth. The same for plants. If we have a seedling that we planted, and over time we'll see more leaves emerging, the stem is getting longer. If we look under the surface, we'll also see that the roots have also gotten longer or bigger than they were when we originally placed it in the ground. The next one we want to look at is respiration. Respiration is the ability of an organism to take in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. And they use this oxygen, which comes in when you breathe in, so it goes into your lungs. The food that you eat, which goes into your stomach and is digested, we break it down into simple sugars. That's one of the main things. The name of the sugar that we're talking about is glucose. And our blood transports this glucose as well as the oxygen to all our cells. And these organelles here that you're seeing looking like this, we call them mitochondria. These mitochondria essentially make the energy that is made through this process of respiration. So the whole process, taking in that oxygen, getting that glucose or the sugar from the food, carrying it to the cells, to the mitochondria, is to get to that point where energy can be made. So if we were to put that in one full sentence, respiration is the process by which living organisms, take in oxygen, give off carbon dioxide, as well as utilize the sugars from the food that they eat to make energy, which is required for everything, whether it's as simple as blinking, clicking your finger, running, even while we're sleeping, we're using that energy. The next one, this is what we could refer to as the I or the S. If it's the I, it is irritability, or if it's the S, it is sensitivity. Sensitivity or irritability both mean the same thing. It is the ability of an organism to sense a change in its environment and respond to it. So, for example, human beings, we have our five senses. Animals, they also have their five senses. You can hear, see, smell, touch, and taste things. Those are your five senses. So, this is what we use to help us pick up changes in the environment as well as respond to it. So, for example, you touch a hot pot, immediately you pull away because that could cause damage. So, you have sensed that there is something dangerous, quote unquote, which is that heat that is burning your skin, and your brain, your body tells you, pull away, and you pull away from it. That is irritability or sensitivity. A next one we have here after irritability or sensitivity. So we have GRI. This one is M. M is for movement. Movement, very simple. The ability for an organism to move from one place or to go from one place to the next. Whether we're walking, we're running, if we're a bird, we can fly. But can plants move? They can't get up and move because they're grounded by their roots, but they can. So, for example, that pickup plant that you see just growing wild in your yard, if you touch the leaves, you see them fold. Sometimes you may see flowers or plants growing at a bent angle. So they're moving from a dark space into the open light. This is also an example of movement, even though they are not moving from here to there, like how we can walk from one place to the next. This is also an example of sensitivity. So plant sensitivity and movement is more or less tied, as the sensitivity in this case, or irritability, if you touch the leaf, it will close. There is a change in the environment, the change being you touched it. Or in this case here, it is growing towards the light. So the light is its stimulus. It is trying to get to that. N, we have nutrition. So nutrition, we all love to eat, right? But what's the purpose of eating? The purpose of eating is to get the nutrients, whether it's the glucose, the fats, the amino acids to make our proteins, whatever. From the food that we eat, we get the nutrients necessary for us to live, for our body to replenish itself, whether it's building new cells, repairing old cells, getting that glucose to make the energy, all of these different things. This is why we eat. But do plants have to eat? No, plants simply make their own food. Simply in air quotes, because it's a very lengthy process, very intricate process that has to go on behind the scenes for plants to make their own food. But more or less, in a nutshell, the plants take in the carbon dioxide from the air. This goes into the leaf, and then from the roots, they take up water. So this comes in from the roots, goes up to the leaf, and through a process of photosynthesis in the part or the organelle in the cell that has that green pigment, which is called chlorophyll. Here is where photosynthesis takes place, and the plant is able to make its own food in the form of glucose. And that glucose is the starting unit to make a lot of things that the plant needs. Apart from this, the plant pulls from the soil all of the other ions and minerals that it needs to build itself, to grow, to respire, to do everything that it needs to through its nutrition. So that's the ability of an organism to take in what they need to survive. And the last, oh, sorry, we have two more. We have excretion. Excretion is the ability of an organism to get rid of waste products. So, for example, in humans, from the lungs, we get rid of carbon dioxide and excess water. From the skin, we excrete water as well as mineral iron, so salts that we don't need in our body. From the kidneys, we excrete water, mineral ions, and urea. And this urea is made in the liver, where we break down proteins or excess proteins to get that urea, which is passed out in our urine. So here you're seeing this guy sweating. And for sure, I am sure that we all could relate to this guy sweating right now because this place is hot, extremely hot. So we are getting rid of water from our body as well as excess salts. That is excretion. How do plants excrete? So one simple example is these dead leaves. In those dead leaves, the plant will put all of the things that it doesn't need or it wants to get rid of, and those leaves eventually die and drop off. So that's how they get rid of it. That's one of the ways that they get rid of things. And the last thing, we have reproduction. All living organisms have the ability to reproduce. And what is reproduction? Reproduction is the ability of an organism, a living organism, to make more of its kind. More of its kind being the main thing. So this deer here will make a smaller version of itself. This deer cannot make an elephant. It cannot make a tiger. It cannot make a human being. Same way these human beings, they could only make another human being, a smaller version, but that small version, as we know, will grow to become an adult eventually. So a species can only make its own kind. It cannot make another species. The same with plants. We have seedlings or we have seeds that will emerge into seedlings and then into the full adult version of the plant. A coconut tree could only have seeds or produce a seed that will give us another coconut. It will not give us a pumpkin, or it will not give us a tomato or a chestnut tree or anything like that, right? So that brings us to the end of this very quick review. I hope that if this is new to you, it gave you a little insight. And of course, in school or at lessons, you will go a bit more into this. And if you did it already, I hope this was a really nice and quick little review, a concise review for you. So thank you for tuning in today to our second episode here at Pureline Tutoring. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.